from ITN.
Europe backs Britain's plan for UN forces in Iraq. 10 die in funeral rally violence in South Africa. Security guard tells of foiling £1 million ransom plan. And Prince Charles back from Brazil and straight onto the polo field. Good evening. European foreign ministers have fully backed Britain's plan to replace Western troops in Iraq with a UN civilian peacekeeping force. The proposal is to be put before UN officials tomorrow. In northern Iraq, British and US Marines have now more than doubled the size of the security zone protecting the Kurds.
These Kurdish men, who were brought to the safe enclave camp yesterday, have begun working to extend the camp and provide toilets and other basic services. Their families are expected to join them later today. Royal Marines patrolling Zaku are now satisfied that the town is secure. They've been receiving a very friendly welcome here. How does patrolling here compare to patrolling Northern Ireland?
Oh, it's a lot different. We're much more relaxed here. The people are a lot more friendlier. We've just been in somebody's house having a cup of tea with their family.
The Allies have established roadblocks on the main road into Zaku. Arabic and Kurdish-speaking American Marines demand that any weapons be handed in. The Peshmerga Kurdish guerrillas have their own checkpoints less than a mile up the road. Peshmerga leaders have been meeting senior British officers to discuss security arrangements. At a briefing this morning, the British commander said Zaku is now safe and secure.
Zaku area is now adequately secure for their reoccupation.
The Royal Marines are now extending their patrols eastwards along the Iraqi-Turkish border to increase their secure area before moving into the mountains to bring the Kurdish refugees down to safety. Dano Glaser, ITN in northern Iraq.
Iraq has been celebrating the 54th birthday of President Saddam Hussein. In government-organized festivities in Baghdad and in his hometown of Tikrit, children sang and danced for the Iraqi leader. A senior spokesman said the celebrations showed the president still had the support of his countrymen. In South Africa, at least 10 people have been killed by Zulus at a funeral in the township of Soweto. 3,000 Inkatha supporters, wielding spears and knives, attacked local residents.
Only a day after President de Klerk returned from Europe promising stability, violence again erupted in South Africa's townships. Zulu warriors exchanging gunfire with ANC supporters in Soweto. The exchanges lasted several minutes before the police tentatively moved in to restore calm and to remove the injured. Elsewhere in Soweto, the rampaging Zulus, supporters of Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezis's Inkatha Freedom Party, left 6 people dead before they returned to their migrant workers' hostels. ANC leader Nelson Mandela called on the government to stop the violence or else.
Or else we will not proceed with the planned all-party Congress, nor hold any discussions on the future constitution for South Africa.
With more than 20 blacks killed this weekend alone, the township violence is now seriously threatening South Africa's fragile transition to democracy. Kevin Dunn, ITN, Johannesburg.
Here, the security guard, whose wife and 3-year-old daughter were kidnapped by an armed gang, has denied he's a hero. The gang demanded £1 million ransom, but were forced to abandon the guard's family after he helped police to set a trap.
At Scotland Yard, the couple kidnapped by an armed and hooded gang talked about their ordeal. They've been praised for their bravery and particularly for alerting police so quickly.
I was beginning to regret it after, because due to the process that it takes to get things in position, I was panicking, to say the least. And at that time, my mind was all the time I was watching the clock, and my mind was with Diane and my little girl. But it wasn't something I, actually thought about. They said the only hero is a dead one. I feel I've done basically what anyone else would do under the same duress.
Michael's wife and daughter were held hostage overnight before being abandoned in this transit van at Bromley Cricket Ground. Though bound and gagged, her mind was on her daughter.
I have no idea where I was or where I went. All I was concerned about was, number 1, protecting my little girl, and number 2, protecting myself. I was trying to be her as well as myself at
Be
night.
as calm, yeah, be as calm as possible.
All I could do was just be calm and just try and just try and get through it.
Police say the robbery had been well planned. Joan Thurkettle, ITN, Central London.
The Environment Secretary, Michael Heseltine, says the Tories are within striking distance of a fourth general election victory. But opposition leaders say they're confident the unpopularity of the poll tax will win them votes in this week's local elections.
Mr Major remains confident that after the lengthy and sometimes acrimonious debate about a replacement for the poll tax, the Tories have got it right with the council tax. And he defended himself on TVAM against the charge that he's been indecisive.
When one talks about decisiveness, the only decisiveness that matters is decisiveness to actually produce a system that will work, that you can show will work, and at the same time you can explain to people how it will actually affect them. That is what we did, and we did it precisely on the timetable that we set out some months ago.
Brian Gould for Labour said under the new tax, 4 out of 5 people would pay more for their property than Environment Secretary Michael Heseltine on his London mansion. And the Liberal Democrat said it would cost the Tories support in the local elections.
As people start to look at the small print, everybody from Norman Tebbett's secretary to the people I meet on the doorsteps is discovering big snags in this new tax.
The council tax faces its first real popularity test on Thursday, when up to 30 million people will vote in the local elections.
The opposition leader, Neil Kinnock, has pledged that a Labour government would not raise basic income tax to fund increased public spending. Mr Kinnock said improvements to public services could only be achieved through economic growth. He also attacked Tory health reforms. He said policies which rely on market forces were against the principles of the NHS.
Now, the market, as the BMA has been pointing out in the course of the last 48 hours, is incompatible with the concept of National Health Service that the British people have. And consequently, if we want a service that is national, not a patchwork, we can't have the opting-out system. If we want one that is about health, much more than it's about accountancy, we can't have the system that the Tories are currently introducing. And if we want it to be a service that is universally available, free at time of use, then that too is incompatible with what is now being implemented.
The group of 7 leading finance ministers are playing down rumours of serious disagreements over interest rates and the future of Eastern Europe. President Bush met delegates before the meeting to tell them that worldwide interest rates need to be lowered.
Finance ministers and central bankers were invited to the White House this morning and told by President Bush that he wanted cooperation seen in the Gulf War to be extended to world economic policy. Unemployment is rising sharply in the United States. The recession is deepening. The American president is concerned that domestic economic problems are now overshadowing the victory in the Gulf. So he and his officials want other countries to cut interest rates to stimulate a world recovery.
Real interest rates are at record high levels, particularly in Europe, where growth is clearly slowing down.
The US Treasury fears that if rates stay high, the world economy will be dragged into recession. But Germany's financial leaders, like Karl Otto Perl of the Bundesbank, want to raise their interest rates because they're worried about inflation. They've showed no signs of agreeing to the American demands. If this meeting does not heal the rift between the Americans and Germans, the world's currency markets could be unsettled. That might hinder Norman Lamont's attempts to lower British interest rates over the next few months.
President Bush has offered his sympathy to the victims of the tornadoes that swept Middle America, killing at least 27 people. Rescue workers in the worst-hit towns are still searching for survivors. Anya Sitteram at ITN reports.
This is all that's left of Andover in Kansas, much of it flattened by the storms. This mobile home park bore the brunt of the winds. It was reduced to a scrap heap within seconds. At least 19 people died here. Today, the search continued for survivors.
Anybody in there?
Others tried to salvage any belongings they could.
Salvageable.
Most of the dead and injured had tried to ride out the storms in their trailers, despite a tornado warning. Others huddled in an underground shelter.
Until you actually go through one, you really never have an idea of how much power is behind one. And fortunately, we were all in the basement when the full impact hit.
50 tornadoes tore across America's Midwest on Friday, leaving hundreds homeless. The scale of the disaster shocked President Bush.
Bob Dole called me yesterday about this awful destruction, and perhaps on this Sunday it's a good time to say a prayer for the families that have been hurt so badly by this devastation.
Tonight they continue to clear up, while hopes of finding anyone else alive are fading.
The Space Shuttle Discovery was launched into orbit today after a short delay caused by a faulty flight recorder. Its 7-man crew will be taking part in experiments for America's Star Wars program.
We have a go for main engine start. We have engine start. 3, 2, 1. We have ignition and liftoff of Discovery on a research flight for the Department of Defense.
Motor racing, the San Marino Grand Prix has been won by the Brazilian Ayrton Senna. It's the reigning world champion's 3rd successive victory of the season. And in soccer, the Spurs striker Gary Lineker has been appointed England captain on a permanent basis. Finally, Prince Charles competed on the polo field today for the first time since breaking his arm in a fall last summer. He was back in the saddle just hours after flying home from Brazil.
The Prince of Wales was out early, practising at the far end of the field. He apparently hadn't slept well on the plane from Rio and was doubtless anxious to shake off the jet lag and exercise his arm a little. The media lined up to monitor the event, while Prince Charles took a phone call in his car. A good luck call from the Princess? We'll never know. As Britain's future king prepared for his first game in 10 months, the question was being asked again, is polo dangerous?
Yes, it is. Any fast sport on horseback, I think, hunting's dangerous, polo's dangerous.
The Prince of Wales stayed in the saddle for 4 practice chukkers today. Julie Cooper was amongst the onlookers. The Prince's polo manager was delighted with the practice.
And a great start for the polo season.
And no problems with the arms?
Absolutely no problems at all.
This season, Prince Charles has 60 matches lined up. Vernon Mann, ITN, in the Cotswolds.
And that's all from the newsroom so far tonight. From all of us on the Weekend News team, good evening.